Last year, Texas lawmakers passed major changes to the state's election laws. Republicans who led the legislation say the changes make it easier to vote but harder to cheat. Democrats who fought the plan say the new laws unfairly restrict how and when voters can cast ballots. Last week, President Joe Biden launched a new effort to undo some of those changes. On Tuesday, the president gave a fiery speech calling on Congress to pass federal voting rights legislation.
Will we choose democracy over autocracy, light over shadows, justice over injustice? I know where I stand. I will not yield. I will not flinch. I will defend the right to vote, our democracy against all enemies, foreign and, yes, domestic.
The president is pushing the U.S. Senate to undo its filibuster rules to clear the path for legislation that's been stalled amid the division on Capitol Hill. But the Biden plan could get shut down by people in his own party. Washington correspondent Anna Wiernicki takes a closer look.
The motion is passed.
On Thursday, House lawmakers passed a consolidated package that includes two voting bills, the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act.
Every American has an equal and fair right to vote.
Texas Democratic Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia says the two bills would reverse Republican-led laws in states like Texas that she says limit access to the ballot box.
The voices of many Texans are being diluted and silenced, especially Latinos.
But as the measure heads to the Senate, Republicans, including Texas Senators John Cornyn and Ted Cruz, say they don't support it.
We don't need the federal government to tell Texas how to run its elections.
It's a bill designed to keep Democrats in power forever.
President Biden huddled with Senate Democrats on Capitol Hill Thursday afternoon to encourage Democrats to change the Senate rules and pass the election bills with only a simple majority.
We're trying to come to a place where 50 senators can support two bills.
But in order to make that happen, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he needs the support of all 50 Senate Democrats. And Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema say they aren't convinced.
And while I continue to support these bills, I will not support separate actions that worsen the underlying disease of division infecting our country.
In Washington, I'm Anna Wiernicki.
We want to take a deeper dive into the effort to change Senate filibuster rules. We're going to hear more from Texas Senator John Cornyn. He's a Republican, and as you'd expect, he opposes the president's plan. But Cornyn pointed out potential long-term effects that could eventually hurt the people who want to change the rules.
What that is just a rule in the Senate that forces us to do things that maybe don't come natural, like working together and building bipartisan consensus. I think people generally would like to see Congress work better, which means that you can't just do things on a partisan basis. And when you do, you're likely to make sure that the next time the majority changes, as it always will, eventually, that the rules get changed back once again. And so there creates a lot of uncertainty, a lot of chaos, difficulty of people to plan their lives, small businesses included. And so this is a common sense rule that forces us to do things in a bipartisan way. But Democrats so badly want a permanent partisan advantage. They want to blow up those rules. I think they would rue the day that they did. They would come to regret that.
Some Democrats are worried about the potential pitfalls of changing the filibuster rules if Republicans regain power, but a lot of them believe it's worth the risk. We talked to State Representative Ron Reynolds. He's one of the Texas Democrats who broke quorum last summer and went to Washington to push for federal voting rights legislation. He told us why he believes Democrats in D.C. should push to change the rules.
And I do understand that the pendulum will likely shift and Republicans will be back in power and they will be able to, if this is enacted, to utilize the not having a filibuster to push through some maybe extreme, what they may see extreme legislation. But when I think about the fact that there's nothing more sacred and fundamental in America than the precious right to vote. Everything hinges. We've been talking about infrastructure, but voting is the infrastructure of our democracy. So goes voting, so goes our democracy. So if there's anything that we should make a carve-out exception for, it is, in terms of the filibuster, it is voting. And the only reason why I feel so strong about this is because Republicans aren't trying to be statesmen and do what's best for the American people when it comes to voting. They are doing nothing more than trying to win by any means necessary. And that is why you have to take extreme measures.
With the filibuster in place, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the For the People Act have no realistic path forward in the divided Senate. If the bills do move forward, it would signify one of the biggest overhauls to U.S. elections in a generation. The legislation could strike down laws that tighten rules on elections in 19 mostly Republican states, including Texas. A program at the University of Texas aims to get more women on the ballot.
It's just sort of that push you need to realize that I can be that person too.
How lessons that go beyond the classroom are helping more Texas women hit the campaign trail.